Chapter 8. The next day, Alicia walked away from the counter, feeling overwhelmed. It was the third store that had told her that they no longer accepted paper applications. "You need to go on our website," a well-intentioned store manager told her. "Once you do that, I will be sure to look it over. We don't have anything open right now, but it could change." Except she didn't have a computer or even internet access. They were luxuries that she couldn't afford. So she tried filling out an application on her phone. It was an inexpensive prepaid phone, but it was a smartphone. Although after 30 minutes on the store Wi-Fi trying to get the website to let her fill in the required fields, she wasn't sure it was all that smart. Overall, the day was long and mostly unsuccessful. Tomorrow, she would have to go to the library and use their computers to job search. Today, she was done. She arrived at the school early enough that she was only the second car in the pickup line. She sat imagining going home and taking off the flats that pinched her toes, or the slacks that rubbed her legs raw. She would get Kenny and then get barefooted and in sweats in no time. She was imagining indulging in a bubble bath when she saw movement out of the corner of her eye. She looked towards her driver's side window and saw two large eyes staring at her. She let out a gasp, and her hand moved to her chest in surprise. It took her a few heartbeats before she could breathe again. Alicia wasn't sure how long it took for her to register the blonde hair and the gray suit and recognize it as the principal. It must have been too long. The principal was looking at her like she was annoyed. Grudgingly, Alicia rolled down the car window. They spent a few seconds staring at each other. Then finally, Alicia realized that she probably should have issued some greeting, but the principal had already started speaking by then. "I am so happy that you asked Kenny's uncle to come to class today. I do think that it will be good for him to have a male influence around. I can only imagine how difficult it must be for you to be a single mother. It is great that you have someone willing to help out and become a role model." Alicia stared at the principal, trying to have the words make sense in her head. "Kenny doesn't have an uncle. I'm an only child." "Well, yes, Kenny seemed a bit surprised by him as well. I assume that he is your boyfriend. I think it is great that he is willing to step in and help when he is not his child." "Someone came to see Kenny?" The words did not make sense to her even as she said them, so she tried again. "You think my boyfriend came to school to hang out with my son?" This time the words clicked inside her head, and with them came a flood of anger. First, some crazy car following her, and now some uncle showing up at her son's school. She rolled up the window as the principal was still talking, shut off her car, and got out. "You cannot park here. This is the pickup line." "Screw the pickup line. Tell me exactly who was hanging out with my son. Is he still here?" As Alicia raced towards Kenny's classroom, the principal tried to keep up. "He came in to help out in the classroom. He said he was Kenny's uncle and you asked him to come in since he has been having some problems in school. He was such a delightful young man. I was thrilled that you had found someone so nice to be involved in his life." By this point, Alicia made it to the classroom. She flung open the door. It opened into the back of the classroom, and at the sound, all the children turned and looked at her. They were grouped together in fours, and angled so each student would be able to see the classroom. Alicia scanned through the children until she found Kenny was sitting at his desk, very much surprised. Alicia continued looking around the room. The desk at the back of the room was empty. The only adult was sitting in front of a whiteboard on a high stool. She held a book in her hands, but her eyes were looking straight at Alicia. Her son was safe. Alicia walked into the classroom and knelt and hugged her son before realizing that this probably wouldn't be very good for his class reputation. "Is something wrong?" Alicia looked up to see Miss Pearson standing over her. She was in her late 20s, but had already taken to wearing sweater vests. Her current one was bright pink with two gray kittens woven into the pattern. She pulled back her frizzy brown hair into a ponytail that had strands falling out. "No," the principal began, but Alicia soon cut her off. "Yes, something is wrong. You let some strange man in this classroom. You did not even bother to call me and verify that he was authorized to be near my son. You have no idea who this man is. It wasn't just my son you put at risk. It was every child in this classroom. Who knows why he wanted to gain access to a third-grade classroom?" The children began whispering, and Alicia did not doubt that they would be telling their parents all about the events of the day. The principal would get a lot of angry phone calls, and this time they wouldn't just be from her. The teacher looked from the principal to Alicia in confusion. Volunteers are not allowed into the classroom unless they have passed the school district's screening. He had a pass, so I assumed he was authorized, even though I did not have any notice that he was going to come into the classroom to help. Yes, well, the principal stammered. In this case, I decided an exception should be made. I am very concerned about Kenny, and if someone was going to help, I wasn't going to make him wait until all the paperwork was finished. You let an unregistered adult into my classroom? The teacher's voice took on a stern tone, like she was lecturing a student. No, there is no need for that. The principal moved from her normal condescending tone to one trying to prevent a catastrophe. We had no way of knowing that Kenny did not know this gentleman. He knew quite a lot about your son. It seemed natural that he was already a part of his life. Did Kenny say that he knew the man? Alicia asked. He seemed a little surprised, the teacher said. Did anyone think to call me to verify his story? We did not want to bother you at work, the principal said. She shifted her weight around and her words fell flat. What work? You have already caused me to lose my job, and now you are putting my kid at risk. Alicia's voice began to rise again. Perhaps we should take this to the office. Alicia looked at the children and realized that most of their tiny bodies were all turned towards the adults. The majority of the children seemed to be amused, like they were watching a play put on just for them. A few seemed to be more concerned about the conversation, and one little girl in a bright blue dress sat with her hands clenched together and tears falling down her cheek. The office would be good, Alicia said. Kenny, grab your stuff and come with us, please. Once they were out of the classroom, Alicia reached down and gripped Kenny's hand, afraid to let him go. Before they made their way down the hallway, the bell rang, and soon they were walking amid a swarm of children eager to head home. When they finally made it to the office, the principal turned and looked at Alicia. She just waited silently, like this was all Alicia's fault and not the school's. Did you take ID? Do you have any idea who this person was? Alicia asked. He just said he was his uncle. Since you do not have any brothers, I assumed that he was a new boyfriend. I came out of my office when he came in. He seemed like a nice guy. He was well put together, and I was impressed that you had managed to do so well. You do realize that he is not my boyfriend. He is some strange person that you let into a third-grade classroom without any idea who he was. Oh, right. Well, Mildred, the principal gestured to the office secretary, had him put his name in the visitor log and then escorted him to the classroom. Do you think that maybe we should look at what he put in the visitor log? Yes, that is a great idea, the principal said. Alicia did not understand how the principal could be so dense, yet still feel that she should always talk down to her. While the principal was walking to get the visitor log, the office door opened, and in walked one of the other moms of a child in her son's class. She had red hair that ran down the length of her back, and even in jeans and a t-shirt she looked completely put together. Alicia recognized her instantly. She was there for every school event and was always helping in the classroom. Alicia would have been grateful, except Kenny said that her daughter was the biggest bully in their class. She was continually putting everyone down and getting away with it because the school was afraid to lose the mom's support, and more importantly, the checkbook. Somehow she had spearheaded the new playground last year and got all the teachers iPads. I just heard that a strange man was wandering around the campus. The principal turned to the mother, Alicia now forgotten. There is nothing to worry about, I promise. It was just someone coming to help out in the classroom. He was an uncle of one of the other students. Are you sure? The mother said. I heard that there was a man over at King Elementary just about a month ago. He was a sketchy older man who was trying to pick up one of the children. It turns out he had a record. You remember me talking about this at the PTA meeting? Yes, I remember, but I assure you it was not the same man. This gentleman was younger, probably in his mid-30s, tan skin and light blonde hair. Wait, did you say light blonde hair? Alicia said. Yes, well, it was a little closer to white, actually, but it is good that you do recognize him. See, there is no cause for concern. Alicia grabbed onto the office counter for support. The room seemed to spin, and it took her a moment to orient herself enough to respond. There has been a car following me around for the last few days. The driver matched what you just described. She hadn't imagined it. And now the school had given this person direct access to her son. Alicia's reaction must have penetrated even the principal. Her carefree manner was gone, and she was finally paying attention to Alicia. "I think we should call the police," the principal said. Alicia was unsure how much the police could do at this point, but what would happen if she didn't report it and the situation worsened? "Yes, I think that you should,"